two things can be true at the same time.
You can't change anybody's mind. You can just offer a different perspective.
The best way to lead is top down.
You have the term enlist no opponent.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurkowski. I'm so grateful that you can join me today. So Brian and Carrie are back. Yes, Brian Grasso and Carrie Campbell, the creators of Eliminate Your Limits Mindset Program and the worldly recognized coaches in the field of mental and physical performance. They join me again to talk about their mission to eliminate teen suicide and pharmaceutical dependency in young adults. So this is essentially part 2 of a conversation not long ago where Brian and Carrie dove deep into the origins of creating EYL, their gamification app, and how this program came about. And in this episode, I wanted to get into the challenges they faced in creating this new business, what the conversations have been like with people wanting to get involved, and their ultimate plan of how to get this business out to the world. So if you don't follow Brian and Carrie, go now and check them out. They are truly two of the most inspiring people in this world. I love them to death, and I'm so pumped that they can connect here again. All right, so with that, let's get to it. If you like this episode and want to show the podcast some love, please rate it and review it wherever you listen, and don't forget to subscribe. Catch all new episodes that are dropped every single week. All right, thank you very much, guys. Now let's get on with the show. Here we are again. Brian and Carrie, what's up, guys? How are you?
How you doing?
We're good.
That's good.
I'm going to test something. How you doing, Magic Michael?
Oh, thank you. Yes. It starts a new brand today. Yes. No, thank you. So good to see both of you. You look amazing. Really appreciate you coming back on. This can be awesome. So this is really a ding round 2 of a conversation we had not too long ago. You know, Carrie was too busy with other stuff, so she had to leave the conversation. So no, I'm just kidding.
I didn't leave the conversation.
No. We were
just so on demand.
No, well, because I have clients.
Yes, exactly. No. So Brian Grasso, Carrie Campbell, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much. We chatted not too long ago. And like I said, we were chatting about Ellie. We had so much we were going over, felt like we barely even scratched the surface. So I was really excited to have you guys back on. So listeners, I'll speak directly to you. If you have not listened to the last podcast we did about a month ago, I encourage you to go do that. We'll probably dive into a lot of some stuff to preheat the oven right off the bat and get things going. But just, from the last conversation, guys, no joke, the work that you're doing with this program, what you guys have done in general since I've known you is so inspiring, but specifically this program of working with the youth. And I took so many notes. There were so many golden nuggets with it. We're going to get into it again, but just wanted to say, I just love what you guys are doing. So anything that I can do to help spread this message, I am so honored to be a part of it.
You're so awesome.
I have something to say on the cusp of that. Carrie just touched my elbow, which is usually the universal signal that I'm shaking or bouncing my knee.
No, I would touch your leg if that was the case.
That's her like, could you stop being, what you're being right now? So, but I know factually I wasn't shaking my knee at that time. So if this is a video podcast, and you see me look awkwardly at my wife for a moment a few seconds ago, that's me going, I don't know this signal. I don't know this one because I'm not like shaking. So I'm confused. But I think what you're telling me is this is how cold my hands are.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
This is so great. I love this podcast already so much. Yeah. So but all right. So to get into where to begin, I guess what I really like to do is, like I said, to kind of just start this off again, we're going to talk about this program that you guys are building up, Ellie. We're going to get into some of the deep dive into the work. But if you could just for if people didn't know what this is about, they didn't listen to the last podcast at all. What is Ellie? What is it about? And what was really the inspiration towards building this program?
Well, I mean, it was entirely my idea.
Sorry.
I'm in the mood.
We're on one.
I hope you don't mind, Michael.
I love it. This is my sit back and just sip my coffee and just watch this marriage go on.
It's the holiday week. I'm feeling festive. That's a great question. No joke. My answer would be go watch episode number 1, and I could stop right there. But actually, I think I was being facetious, and now I'm not. The whole component of digitizing this curriculum we'd created for mindset and emotional intelligence for adolescents came from Carrie. It was something that we've been asked to do by Pitbull, the entertainer. He has charter schools around the country. He asked us if we would create a mindset and EQ curriculum for his schools. that we would pilot in the schools in Miami and Boca Raton, which we did. It was very, very, very well received by staff, administration, and the actual teenagers themselves. That I remember distinctly, we sat in a hotel restaurant with Pitt and the school superintendent for his schools, and we basically agreed in that moment that we were going to go ahead and take this to all his schools nationwide, 22 schools around the country. And literally 3 days later, the pandemic lockdown happened. And so, I mean, we pivot. Entrepreneurs have to pivot.
Yes.
By choice or by force. We're always looking for other opportunities if you're faced with the inevitable having to pivot. And Carrie just came up with this great idea of why don't we get it out of just a few select schools, get it worldwide, and digitize it into an app, and that's where it all came from.
So I mean, just to like my one-liner on that one is essentially like LE or Eli, depending on how you want to reference it, is essentially the first ever app for teenagers that is going to combine video game technology and our mindset curriculum and emotional intelligence curriculum for teenagers, with the sole intent to eliminate teenage suicide and the use and the dependency on pharmaceuticals for mood regulation and emotion management. So that's really the essence of it. It's like the Alexa of your mind.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. So last time, I mean, you guys dove into the origin story of how everything, came about in there. And then afterwards, I mean, some of the stats, some of the, actual stuff going on with teens, I was totally not aware of. And I don't know if you guys ever see this before too, but like I'm a coach, you guys are coaches. Oftentimes, especially being able to connect with people like you, even clients that I work with, everybody's in this kind of mindset of trying to grow, not realizing that sometimes we can feel this, we're like this in this little bubble. We're like, oh yeah, everybody's trying to improve themselves, not realizing that there's a big world out there of people who are really struggling. So, I mean, some of these stats of kids 1 out of 3 kids will drop out of school. I didn't know that. Like the rate of depression of kids has like doubled over like 10 years, even more.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you guys know like how deep of a problem this was before you even got started? Or was this things that you kind of found out like, okay, we really need to dive into this even more?
Well, Carrie and I both have a long history of working with adolescents independently before we, became a couple, and then collectively once we did. So some of the statistical data we uncovered in preparation for understanding the role Ellie had to play better. But I think even without the data in hand, we were well aware of the challenges that were facing the teenage population worldwide, probably as much or more than anybody else, because we worked in those communities and those demographics for a very, very long time. I mean, 20, 30 years for both of us. I could go on a soapbox, and I will at some point during this podcast, I'm sure, about the realities of, for example, pharmaceutical dependency. And I will go on that soapbox. Before I do, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the thing that for me that I want to add to that is that, I always find statistics fascinating, because, you can sway a statistic any way you want.
100%.
Depending on the person who's doing them. So for me, I always the way I like to look at this is that I don't know if the stats have changed so much versus it's always been a problem that we haven't been addressing. And or it's become, the statistics are more prevalent now because of social media and the world that we live in, I don't know, like as a teenager, when I was sad, I didn't have social media to go to where I could research and learn about teenage suicide or depression or whatever it may be, right? I didn't have a label to put on it because I wasn't in a world that my information was available at my fingertips. You know what? I'm actually going to say not only information, but influence available at my fingertips, right? Like I don't know if anxiety, depression, and these realities have increased so much as they're more apparent in the statistics now, because kids are actually self-diagnosing themselves based on the influence around them. And it all leads back to me to the exact same issue that's always been the issue. We don't know how to manage our emotions.
Yes.
We're not taught how to manage our emotions as human beings. And so the statistics I see have exponentially potentially increased due to all those variables that I mentioned, right? So I think it's always been a problem. I think it's just more in our face now than ever before.
I think that's a fair assessment. And, thus my soapbox begins. I'll be very short, I promise. Or as short as a soapbox.
Sure.
I think, is it a short box?
Soapbox. It's short box. That was great. Well, it's actually funny you said what you're about to say as a joke, because what I was going to lead with is that two things can be true at the same time. And in my case, a soapbox can be short. There you go. But back to the point, what can be true at the same time is that I can have an incredible disdain for the way that the psychological industry is handling emotional mismanagement with young people. I can have a tremendous disdain for that and not demonize doctors at the same time. Right. Those can both be true.
Right.
What I always remember is that doctors are doctors by virtue of what their specialty is. They don't know everything.
Yes.
They know what they know, and they know what they're told. And now, I don't know if you're all aware of this, but there's a lot of rumblings coming out of the AMA, American Medical Association, quite recently. And I mean very recently, where they're finally admitting research showing that depression is actually not caused by a chemical imbalance in your brain. Something I've been saying for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? That with no scientific literature to support my claim, I'm a quack. Thankfully, the scientific literature is coming forward now. But what I always contended is that, serotonin is most produced in your gut, not your brain. We're feeding people pills that make their brain more chemically balanced, but serotonin is mostly produced in your gut. There's a lack of sensibility there. And so now the research is coming forward and the AMA is admitting. Having said that, there are still individual psychologists who are denying it all and saying, no, it's a chemical imbalance thing. In our mind, and what we've seen practically is exactly what Carrie has said is accurate. Young people, adults, I don't care what the demographic is, we do not know how to manage our emotions well. We're never taught, we're never guided, we are influenced the exact other way. When a teenager exhibits a couple weeks worth of depression, as an example, the first inclination to medicate them automatically, diagnose them automatically, label them automatically, and give them a self-fulfilling prophecy automatically. I believe without question, it can be argued that it's more harmful than it is good. Instead, how about we teach young people how to manage emotions? That if I look at the spectrum of emotional reality for human beings, we are able to experience joy and elation and happiness and love because we're also able to experience sadness, depression, anxiety, and terror. So if it's on the spectrum, it means we are meant to understand it. It means that there is a polar opposite that needs to be in place. It means that we must teach people how to manage those emotions, not mute them, not medicate them into silence, but manage them. And that, to me, is the basis of what Ellie is intending to do.
And for me, there's got to be a generational change, right? And that for me is the key, because if you think about it, we are currently a society filled with adults who have never learned how to manage their emotions.
Right. I was going to ask about that. It's like, is it we just don't know as adults how to do this to teach the kids?
Equipped. Well, not we, the three of us here, we are, right? But most adults can't even manage their own emotions, let alone teach their children or their students or their whoever, insert whatever, how to manage their emotions. How can you teach a skill you don't have? So, we can continue to try to stop the bleeding by medicating and putting people into institutions or hospitals or Baker acting people.
Which, by the way, happens all the time. It's called Baker.
We can continue to do that, or somebody can come along and try to change a generation. And that's not a small job, right? But if we effectively, the consciousness at large in generations has changed, right? We have adopted new thoughts process. We evolve as humans, right? So it's not a small job to change a generation, but imagine the impact if this next generation is impacted so deeply by Ellie. It's an app, technology is worldwide for the most part. Everybody has access to the skills that they need to acquire for themselves, but then for the next generation. That's where you affect true change.
Yeah.
On a big scale, which is what we're after.
Yeah,
Right.
I just want to tell this quick story, if I could, that supports everything Carrie just said. And I can say this without being specific, so as to not, infringe upon anyone's, privacy rights. So as part of the tip of the sword, so to speak, for Ellie, we have an ambassador team who goes into school systems inside the United States of America, working with the school administrations and the superintendents, saying, look at, these two people have this coming down the road in 2023. What they'd love to do is be able to come in to do a student in service. So they can teach your students everything about emotional management, mindset, emotional intelligence, etc. And they even do it for a year, meaning they'll do a 1 or 2 day live presentation with your student body, but they'll monitor everything and be accessible to the students for an entire calendar year. And we have it in a beautiful proposal. It's a two-page proposal. It explains everything, the outcomes and what we do and why we do it and why it's all important. And 2 times now in the last 3 months, the superintendent of a school has looked at our proposal and said, this is great. And I really want to have you do this with the students, but our teachers need it more. So can you do this for our teachers? That's our point.
Wow.
God bless teachers. I would never say, I think the school system is ridiculous and antiquated, but teachers are doing their best, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about adults looking at our proposal for kids, saying, well, let's bypass the kids for now because our adults don't know this information.
Yeah.
Those are the people teaching our kids. No disrespect intended, but clearly they don't know managing emotions, mindset, emotional intelligence.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that our kids don't know it either.
Mm-hmm. The pushback that there still is from like the psychological culture in some, with that on emotional intelligence. And we've gone over this before, like emotional intelligence is the #1 biomarker you see of not just success, but happiness in there as well. It's happiness and fulfillment in there. And that's what we're all looking for. Yet some are still pushing back on that. Is that just because people are you think some of them, they're just so ingrained in what they're doing of pushing out their own agenda that just to look at a different approach is going to take more time and more effort to get into it?
Sorry, I mean to cut you off. It's funny you say that because I was actually thinking about this earlier when you were on your short soapbox. I was thinking about it.
Pretty short.
I think what we have, so if people were to go through our EYL, our Eliminate Your Limits certification, they would have the answer to the question, in my opinion. We defend our belief systems.
Yes.
We defend them. Oftentimes, I don't think people even know how ingrained their belief systems are, or that they even have a belief system. That it's a construct of their mind. It's not reality.
Or what they were taught.
Right? Exactly. Like if you're a psychologist believing that the only way is this way, or if you're a psychiatrist who believes that the only way that you can, there's this new one right now that there's this new drug that's out that I don't know if it's new, if it's just coming like more up and coming, that it's actually medicating kids to not have cravings for alcohol and drugs.
Score.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right. Except
let's replace dependency.
That's sarcastic for anybody not seeing my face right here.
Unpack right there. But my point being, if your belief system is so ingrained in you that it's medication is the answer, I think that there's a level in some people of such unconscious incompetence that they don't know anything else. And we defend our belief systems, right? Like we naturally are going to protect ourselves and defend ourselves. I think it's part of the problem. I think it's a huge part of the problem.
I think it's the biggest part of the problem. I think egos are egos, and I think professional territorialism is what it is. I think pushback is natural because people were taught this is right, and therefore they feel infringed upon personally. Right. If you provide them information that perhaps what they were taught isn't right, because it's their identity. It's how they identify themselves. There is another way of looking at it, or an additional way, which might be a bit more nefarious, but I happen to think it exists as well. Follow the money.
I was going to say, yeah.
Follow the money. Who pays doctors to prescribe medication? Big pharma.
Yeah.
So if every time a doctor gets paid to prescribe something, well,
I know.
kids
And it's such a
getting
dirty
food
thought
and,
because we want to
it costs
think good
money.
of all people and stuff. And it's so nasty, but it's so weird. It's like, it just seems so fucked up to me that you can think that way, that what you learned at one point is still always going to be valid, for the rest of your life. It's, I mean, we all train. If you do the same exact workout as you did when you first got into training and you just do that forever, like you're going to outgrow that thing. You need to expand your knowledge, your limitations and stuff. It just seems like so natural that, okay, we need to explore different options here because it's not working.
Well, especially because whatever the reasons are for rates and statistics changing, they're changing. They're increasing. They're getting worse.
Yeah. So to take that point that you said about when you put the proposal out and they said, well, we can't even give this to students yet. Like we have to get this to teachers. Like, do you think, is that a good idea? Or is it even just, no, we're still want to let's get this to the students first?
Well, no, we embraced it. We embraced it big time. Yeah. I think, again, we're not, I don't mean to speak for you. I think I can though. We're not particularly big fans of the school system in the United States of America, but that's not to demonize teachers.
Right.
It's an antiquated system that I think teachers are doing the best they can inside of a system that really isn't functional anymore. So we're teacher advocates without question. And I think the idea, we've always believed that the best way to lead is top down, that if you're going to set an expectation, you should meet it. And so if the school administration is setting an expectation to the student body by having us come in to talk to them and teach them and guide them through processes of emotional regulations and management, the students are going to buy in better if the teachers do too.
Right.
So I think the top down is wickedly important. And I was honored that they thought so highly of the idea that they wanted to get their teachers involved.
And if we were to go back as well to our original plan, the way that we had it structured, our initial integration was with teachers first inside.
Right.
Because for us, we look at it as a culture, right? Like if because everything that we're doing is based off of a process and a system, there's certain language, there's certain terms, we have a whole, Michael, that we have a whole culture inside of what we do. And so we wanted to bring that culture and that language to the schools. Right. So if everybody in the schools is talking the same talk, then we're all on the same page. And you can't do that without the teachers and the staff and the administration and everybody, right? Being in part of that.
Yeah. I love the idea of going directly to the kids though, because it seems like that aspect of autonomy comes into it where they're really doing it in themselves within the app. And because I know, and I think it'd be great too, like the teachers should know, and it should be top down. So if you have questions or if you have, you need safe spaces to go talk about these things, people know what you're talking about. Yeah. But what I love so much about the app is like, no, the kid can go in there as on its own idea. Yeah. And like, like when it's your own idea and you feel a part of the solution of it, it's going to even ingrain in you even more.
Yeah, well said. And there's a big socialized functionality to Ellie as well. And we've built it that way. Now, Michael, you understand entrepreneurialism as well as anybody. There's versions, right? Version 1 is going to be a little different than version 2. And by the time you get to version 6, it's the app is completely morphed. So we don't know what version this is all going to fit into, but the interconnectivity of teenagers worldwide being able to connect through this app and on this app and talk in the same language with each other via this app is a really important part of it all for us. And that's why Carrie talks about video game technology, and it's gamified, but it's gamified, congruous with a community of people who are using the app with you. So it's we looked at everything like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. What do we like? What can be better? What do young people seem to gravitate towards? And we try to extract the best elements we could and find ways of bringing them into Ellie.
So you guys are going to have V1 out first, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's setting intentions, and daily wins is going to be the first piece of that.
Yes, that you recalled that. Yes, it is.
Well, to go on that, I'd like to dive deeper into that. Like what, because the EYL model, I've been a part of it. I've seen it. It's very vast. It's very intensive, and it works very, very well. What made you guys pick these first to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that one. After years of implementing our model, and one of the things that I teach as a coach to our coaches who we're teaching how to coach, that was a mouthful, is the EYL model is not a blueprint, it's a roadmap, which means there's concepts in it, and the more you practice it and the more you teach it and the more you coach it, the more you're able to adapt it and understand that, it's not always going to be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Because I say that obviously, EYL and having gone through it, there's a methodology to the way it's taught. But the way that it's implemented might not always be the same way, because it always depends on the consumer or the client on the other side, right? So after years of practicing as a coach and implementing with my clients, basically what I was looking at were, what are the 2 biggest bangs for their buck for kids and in an app? Like, what is the 2 things that I do with my clients that are going to yield the greatest impact immediately? And I actually ran a group for women last year. It was, and the group was solely developed off of intentions and wins. And in a matter of 6 weeks, these women were feeling better. They were hitting their goals. They were doing better in life. They were feeling more successful. And so those two tools in particular, they don't want to, for one, they don't force you to dive deep into your emotions, which I think in version 1 was really important. Like we didn't include learning your language in version 1, which, as you know, is that deep dive into understanding your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, your symptoms, right? But for version 1, that was what I believed to be too complicated and complex, because the support we would have needed on the other side in terms of hands-on support. We don't want to open up a can of worms for a teenager on learning their language, but then there's no coach or accountability on the other side to be able to support them. We didn't want to create a bigger problem, right? So knowing that intentions creates direction, creates purpose, creates focus in the day, which as a human being, it's what matters most. Knowing where we're going, knowing what we're creating, right? And then wins at the end of the night is a self-reflection on the day and how we won. So those 2, by design, those 2 tools are, if you do them, are naturally going or scientifically going to start to shift your mindset and your emotions, regardless if you're touching anything else. I've seen it through our practice. I practice it myself daily. And on the other side of that, they're also the 2 simplest to understand. Yeah. They're the easiest to implement, and we've unpacked it even more inside the app. So it's so stupid simple, the way that the kids have to execute it. But we were looking at what is the greatest impact we can make with the greatest simplicity for the population that we're targeting.
Oh, I love that so much, because that was the question of how do you, because you guys are such great coaches and you're so good and you work with people directly, that somebody has a question, you can answer it very quickly. But this is a passive based model where it's going to be out to a lot of people. You guys can't talk to everybody in the world in there. Right. So just to come back to it's so interesting, because that even the term mindset, I don't even know how you guys feel about that word, but it seems like it gets very misinterpreted.
I used to love it.
And it's everybody thinks deep dive, when it's no, if you just actually start the day with intention and then end it with reflection on there, just probably that focus is enough to put you in the right direction, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's not the 100%. It's not, it's definitely the reason there's going to be multiple iterations of it. Yeah. Because, it's really, I don't know about you, but one of the things that was almost challenging for me was how do we get this off the ground, knowing we're going to put 2 elements of our 500 lessons, if not more, into this app, right? How do you choose? And especially when you want to do it all, as a coach, you can see the future of it and where it's going. Right. But we have to protect the kids. We have to protect them. Right. We don't want to create a bigger problem. And we couldn't take the responsibility of deep diving and then having no one to talk to. Right. We do have mechanisms built into the app right now that are temporary, safeguards, that if one of the teenagers does feel like they need to talk to someone or whatever, we have references for them. Okay. But over time, the vision over time is that we have, a huge collection of coaches worldwide who are on the back end of Ellie. and are interacting with the teenagers and are available. But obviously that's in the future as we build.
Mm. Do you guys have an idea, like after version 1, then, like, is this in your minds of like, this is when we'll go to version 2, like we want to see these biomarkers, or do you guys operate that way, like as you're kind of building this up?
I think loosely. I think I might have a bit more of a picture than you do, but that's good. My brain,
not mine.
yeah, my brain kind of goes that direction.
Okay.
It might sound a little cheeky and coy, but in all honesty, what we want is for the app to succeed. And success to us is usability. Are people using it, right? So although, most coaches might geek out on, infusing other parts of their system into the app immediately for version 2, my brain has gone to how do we ensure teenagers continue using the app? And so for us, version 2 is probably going to be more intensively involved with the blockchain currency, so that the actual action of using Ellie gets you tokens inside of the game itself. Sometimes I shouldn't say sometimes, in certain circumstances, we're toggling between, do we partner with large scale companies like Apple, as an example, to make the token, the Ellie token, real cash that can be redeemed with Apple. So it incentivizes teenagers to use, because they can, accrue tokens daily, but actually buy stuff on Apple, right? The other option is that we keep it as an in-app currency exclusive to Ellie, and that we simply, create the partnerships externally and bring the merchandise in, and then, that way the kids can pay for it inside the app itself, as opposed to us having to bridge a relationship with Apple amongst other organizations. So that for me is one next step. The other next step is the cohesion of the communication amongst users. Right. So now, once we get past version 1, version 2 for me is the actual gamification has to be expanded and explored, because I want, teenager A in Russia and teenager B in Canada to be able to talk to each other in varying ways through Ellie. So if we can accomplish those 2 things in version 2, we broaden the base. Now people are going to use the app, and it's going to spread because people are using it. They're going to tell their friends. Yeah. Now version 3 is where we can bring more curriculum back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm envisioning like these Ellie events all over the world, like with different concerts and kids coming together on these things over time. Like this is going to be
us too.
Fun. Yeah.
That's us
That's
too.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we're availing ourselves of things that we don't deeply even understand, to be honest. Like the metaverse. You talk about Ellie events around the world. Well, we're not many years away from there being a single Ellie event in London that your avatar
is
through the metaverse can attend, and you get to connect with, meet, and socialize with the people in 3 dimension, even because it's on the metaverse. I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, these are all things that are very real.
That's why that's not our lane. I
think I know, and I know it's coming too. It's so not in my lane either. It's like when it comes, I'll go to the event and I'll be there from. So with you guys, as you've built this up, you've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about this with it. Is there been any challenge back or any pushback or any questions that people have popped up at all with these conversations at all over time?
That question.
That's a really good question. I can think of one, but you go first.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't gotten any pushback at all, like not even remotely from anybody. The response I get from everybody is usually like mouth drop, goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
And
how do we get involved?
Exactly.
Like, because it's a problem that everybody's like, nobody, and I also think that our conviction in the way that we express it, right? Like, because like when you tell people like our plan is to eliminate teenage suicide and the dependency on pharmaceuticals, like that's not a small job. Right? Like there could be, I'm sure there's naysayers out there. We're just not talking to those people, but there's a lot of people who go be like, good luck with that. Like you're never going to reach that. Right. But I haven't even come across one person who's had that reaction to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think goosebumps, jaw hitting the floor, and how can we help has been everything. That's what we've experienced.
Yeah.
One person is going to be unsurprising to you guys. She's a psychologist who works in school administration. She didn't push back. She suggested we try other ways. Like, for example, her idea was to reward students for going to math class on the day of their, because not going to math class is going to have a detrimental effect on their future. And in my head, I'm like, no, it's fucking not. I never went to math class and I'm doing fine.
This is the first I heard this story.
It was
Like,
free.
Okay, because
build a rewards-based system. in
that
there.
would have elicited
Yeah.
a very big soapbox for me
Yeah.
if Brian had told me that story.
No, it's legit. It happened only like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
But look at God bless her, because
Right.
she knows what she knows.
right.
And that's fine.
That's exactly what I was just gonna say, because that actually highlights the point we were talking about before, of not knowing what you don't know. She works, this psychologist exists in a school system
Mhm.
where their challenge is getting kids to go to class and make their grades so that they get the funding so that they can keep their schools open, right?
Mhm.
So that's her reality, right? Like, her reality is like, I need the kids to show up to class. I need the kids to do their job. I need the kids to do their homework. That's not the problem we're trying to solve.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's
And-
very logical. It's very short term, and it's very solve this today and then survive again tomorrow to try it again.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah. And it actually raises a slightly different question that is in the arena of what you just asked us, Michael. I have been asked, how are you going to beat Big Pharma and the conglomerate that is psychologists and psychiatrists? My answer is, well, you don't have, you can't win a fight you're not in, right? I'm not looking to beat anybody. I'm not looking to fight with Big Pharma. So our noted audience that we are actively talking about, Ellie, with, are entrepreneurs, celebrities, elite athletes, and the federations and leagues they represent. That's the people we're talking to. You talk to any level entrepreneur about a big idea, they're going to encourage you. They're going to ask, how can they get involved? Can I sway my audience? Do you guys need funding? You ask elite athletes about, what it is we're trying to do with Ellie. They're all for it. You ask celebrities. So we're not fighting with anybody. We've decided I'm not going to Big Pharma.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to psychologists. They can do what they want to do, and we're not going to get in their way.
Right.
I just think our way is substantially better, and in the long run will prove substantially more effective.
You have the term enlist no opponent.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that,
Mm.
Well, technically Buddha has that term,
Right.
but it's called.
I heard it from you first. But the truth is that we're not looking for opponents in this, right? And so for me, this is, obviously this speaks to the resilience of mindset of our own, right? There's a lot of people who, having not done their own work, would get caught up in all the hows and the what ifs and the but and the this and the that. And we just don't, with any amount of time we spend thinking about that, is time away from thinking about how we're solving the problem that we're trying to solve.
Right.
So I've never even so much as considered that, to be honest with you. As we're going to do our thing.
It is a great question.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. One of my favorite quotes. It's from Daryl Davis, where he says, "You can't change anybody's mind. You can just offer a different perspective."
100%.
And it seems that's exactly what you guys are kind of aiming at. If you just go, Big Pharma's not going away. They're going to be around for a very long time, with it. It's but you can offer a different perspective, especially for people who need this avenue. I think we said at the last, podcast, we're not looking to solve the problem. It's to build momentum, get kids talking about these things. And I think that's where I know, as an adult guy, solo business owner, gone through a lot of different stuff. You get in your own head with a lot of stuff. If you don't release it out and talk about these, at 38 years old, I'm still learning these things. So can't imagine being a 14-year-old with no reference point about successes and failures over the time. So just offering the ability to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it is just so smart that you guys did it with just the simple things of intention and reflection right off the bat, and then just building it up from there. With you guys.
That was all Carrie.
Yeah. Well, Carrie's awesome.
Our system, we make it together.
No, but you engineered version 1. I give grace to my wife. She's a smart lady.
Yeah.
If you still say lady, am I gonna get in trouble for that?
You're good. You can call me.
I think you're good. Yeah. So, well, with you guys working on this on a day-by-day basis as well, I mean, you've been, this is years in the making here. I'm sure there hasn't been times where it's probably been kind of stagnant. You haven't found a lot of traction with it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have certain mechanisms yourself that you do of like keeping yourself like focused, like even in times when things aren't maybe going the way that you want, you projected it out, I wish I should be here or so, like, how do you guys get through those times?
You're good at
You
this.
got good questions, Michael Kurkowski. I think ours might be a little bit different.
Ours is, I'm sure.
So, I'm a big feeler. Like I'm just like, I connect mostly to feeling beyond anything else.
Sicko.
So
And rubbing elbows.
So for me, the thing that keeps me driving forward, I guess it's really two things. So one of our 4 pillars, which you're familiar with, is imagine your outcome, right? Like the projection forward of whatever you're trying to create. And that could be in 3 hours from now or in 3 years from now. I have a very ingrained imagination of the official release of Ellie. It's me, Brian, and Pitbull on a stage being interviewed about Ellie. And it's a huge audience full of people. And we actually have an AI version of Ellie in the room at that particular event. And we're being interviewed, talking about where it all began and why it started and why we're doing it. And for me, that's all governed by the emotion of saving kids' lives. Like, I'm just like quite up. And honestly, I have seen so much pain in so many kids' lives. I worked with kids, teenagers with psychosocial issues for years. If we can save as many kids' lives while we're here on Earth and then beyond the time that we leave, that's it. That's what I'm playing for. And it's all built around that imagination of that release date. And once that release date comes, I'll just build and cultivate a new imagination. But that for me is what keeps me going when the road gets a little bit rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my answer is different. I enjoy momentum. And when stagnation happens, I try to manufacture momentum. So this is one of the reasons entrepreneurially, Carrie and I always advocate to entrepreneurs for you to know your vision very, very well and be able to articulate it simply. So when we've had stagnation in the creation of Ellie, I will purposefully go into my database and start texting, emailing, or calling people just to have a conversation. Hey, Mike, I realize we haven't talked in some time. I'm working on something now. This is what we're intending to do to eliminate teenage suicide and pharmaceutical dependency. We'd love to have a conversation with you if that sounds like something you're interested in. And 10 out of 10 times, who's not interested in that? Yeah. So then I end up having a conversation with somebody for half an hour about Ellie and what we're doing and why we're doing it, how can they help, and blah, 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 and stagnation gone. I just feel robustly connected to the project again.
Love that.
I love how different those answers were.
Absolutely.
It is.
Mine's probably a little better.
Well, and both work so well. One is okay, text a couple people, get everything rolling. The other one is envision the outcome from there. And I've learned that from both of you guys for years now on this, which is awesome. So guys, I think this was successful again in here.
We are successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously, everything that you guys are doing on this is just fantastic. I love talking about it. Every time I just get so charged up talking to you guys because I just know you two as a people, how genuine you are with your efforts and everything that you're doing. So
total show.
100%. Non-authentic at all. No, seriously. So I think we'll close it at that. Those are absolutely beautiful. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate everything that you have. Guys, go follow Brian and Carrie. We'll be on again, I'm sure. We'll set up another time. This is going on more and more. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.